So let's start with a big picture question about this. I mean, I know how are you? I know on the surface this is a good deal for Major League Baseball because they are getting the two highest profile teams in the sport. But ultimately, is this good for baseball?
I think as I've thought about this, I think it's good once. I think if you did it like you did it in the 50s, that would be not the greatest.
Right.
I think every year, or even if it's happened 3 times in 5 years. I do think in general, we've had a decent run of big market teams. I'm thinking back to the Cubs in 2016, which I think is the highest rated World Series in the last decade or so.
Right.
But the Dodgers have been in a lot. The Red Sox Dodgers 2018. There wasn't a lot of tradition there in terms of the those two franchises, but that was a pretty big deal. And obviously the Astros, it's a huge market, number one. And by 2022, there was a team that people like to hate. So I think it helps to have a heel. I don't know if you always want 2 heels.
Are these 2 teams heels?
These are 2 heels.
Are they both heels? I mean, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it in those terms. The Yankees are always heels to me.
Country it is.
Okay.
I think when you have $300 million payrolls, it kind of makes you. I don't know if it makes you NWO or if it makes you the Four Horsemen. I can't go WWE. I grew up in North Carolina, so
gotcha.
I liked the Four Horsemen. They were fun, but I didn't like the other. I couldn't like them and other heels at the time. I couldn't like them and Nikita Khrushchev at the same time.
Well, that's part of it, I guess, right? The payrolls are part of it. Would the Mets have been a heel?
I mean, no, but that's because they're the Mets. I mean, I do think it's a little different despite the $300 million.
Right, because they had the highest payroll.
Right, and they haven't won since 1986.
I know. So, I'm with you on that.
I believe you are familiar with this. So I think in the big picture, I do think it's going to be good for 1 year. And I just listened to the commissioner talking about this. 2023 was a good year for the sport with the pitch clock and the changes, and then things continued to go in a positive direction in 2024. So this making revenue, big ratings, a lot of eyeballs in this postseason. I think this will finish with a strong World Series with these 2, I think, good teams. And also I think a lot of people will watch. So kind of where we go from here as a sport. I think if this happens 4 times out of 6 years, I think it'll tell you that the imbalances economically in the sport have led to too great of an imbalance. So I think we have to see some, I think in the short term, good, but I don't think we want to have this kind of matchup every year of the behemoths playing each other.
John Manuel, Pro Scout, Minnesota Twins, at John Manuel NC on Twitter. Last year's World Series gave us a 6 seed versus a 5 seed. Rangers and Phillies, with the Rangers winning it. Now, Dallas is a big market. Philadelphia is a big market. But those are 2 non-traditional powers, even though the Phillies have been good for a number of years in a row. Houston.
The D-backs. It was the D-backs. Don't forget, they knocked off the Phillies. Phillies were the year
I'm sorry, my fault.
Houston.
My fault. That's right. It was the Diamondbacks.
That's okay.
Phoenix is also a big city.
6 seeds. But you had 6 seeds back-to-back years in the National League with the Phillies in 22, and the Diamondbacks in 23. So
yeah. Maybe I didn't watch enough baseball last year, and I
wasn't going to say it.
I was blending two seasons together. But we've had a run of, regardless of whether they're, because I think we have to pare the conversation down from big market to big revenue teams, right? Because for the most part, I mean, because the difference between the Mets and the Yankees in terms of the same market, right, is that, and they're both big revenue teams, is that the Mets have not done enough. I've argued so often that payroll size, it gives you margin for error, but it doesn't guarantee you a single thing in the sport.
Right.
Because Chicago is the 3rd biggest market. Los Angeles is the 2nd, right? And three of the most feudal franchises in the sport are based in those markets. The Cubs have had some success. The White Sox are a train wreck, the worst team we've ever seen this year. And the Angels, when was the last time the Angels were a threat? So we've seen.
They set a franchise record for losses this year with 99. So you look no further than the Yankees. 4 years ago, and I don't mean to pick on a player because I work for a rival team, so I'm not saying anything negative about DJ LeMahieu.
Right.
But DJ LeMahieu had a great year for the Yankees. They acquired him from Colorado. It looked like a great move. He was a really good player for the Yankees. They signed him to a 6-year, $90 million contract extension. And I think this is the third or fourth year of that contract, and DJ LeMahieu is nowhere to be seen on their playoff roster because he had a terrible year, and that's just objective. So they make a mistake like that, which is what that is. That contract is a debit, not an asset.
Right.
If you're looking at it from a financial perspective, they can go out because they have the payroll and go acquire a Jazz Chisholm who basically replaces DJ LeMahieu on the roster. And that's what that illustrates the point that you've been making, that payroll really allows them to make up for a mistake. And then you have to go out and get the right player. And I thought at the time, maybe that wasn't the right player. I think Jazz Chisholm has been the right player for the Yankees. And I think Brian Cashman deserves a lot of credit for making that move.
He absolutely does. And Brian Cashman has been kind of raked over the coals at times in New York for being not good at his job. And I would argue that he should go into the freaking Hall of Fame as a general manager because the Yankees have had some bad contracts and some players that haven't worked out. But at the same time, they keep figuring out a way to either when they dip, not dipping very far, and then bouncing right back up. And yes, a lot of that is the ability to go out and sign a Garrett Cole who wouldn't sign with either Pittsburgh or Houston, or go out and trade for a Juan Soto who wasn't going to stay with the San Diego Padres because there was a limit to how many superstar contracts that the Padres could have, and they've got a bunch. They have invested a lot of money into that team. No
doubt.
But Cashman has done a very good job at continuing to rebuild and reconstruct the Yankees. It's always made me laugh, the criticism of Brian Cashman, because all they have done for the most part is win to a point. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, 15 years, right, since the Yankees won a World Series?
This is their first pennant in 15 years. And I was definitely, in my old job and on the media side, I was a pretty heavy critic of Brian Cashman. And I think I would boil it down to they didn't stay true to – I think they let the analytics take them a little bit away from the tried and true things that Yankees teams had done to win, like being offense first behind the plate, not trying to win on the fringes with pitch framing and that kind of stuff. I'm thinking Posada, Bill Dickey, Thurman Munson, Yogi Berra, Elson Howard. They won with offense first catchers. And then they won with left-handed pitching, whether it was A.D. Pettit or CeCe Sabathia or Lefty Gomez or Whitey Ford or Ron Guidry.
Yep.
Just go through the years. And, they actually have remedied that. Carlos Rodon, Holly Springs' own.
There you go.
There's a frontline left-handed pitcher, and they're back in the World Series. I know he struggled last year, but Carlos has been he's looked like the Carlito of old that we used to see over at NC State. Honestly, his fastball's better and his slider's worse than it used to be in some ways.
Wow.
So it'll be really interesting to see how he matches up with a very left-handed, heavy Dodgers staff. But then Austin Wells, the Yankees, I used to criticize them for not drafting very well either. Austin Wells, obviously Aaron Judge is a pretty good draft pick, but Austin Wells, their catcher, has become a good offensive, kind of two-way catcher. They're trying to win with a rookie catcher. That is not easy. So it's I think you have to give Cashman his flowers. I don't remember the rest of the Miley Cyrus lyrics. I'm sorry, but we can give him his flowers because they've never had a losing record on his watch, which is really hard to do. And just in professional sports in general, this guy's going on almost 30 years, I think 27 years as a general manager. And that's hard enough to do it in a New York market and to have that level of consistency. Tip of the cap from a Twins organization who calls the Yankees our daddies to Brian Cashman and the Yankees.
We can go back to Joe Nathan, clearly hyperventilating on the mound of the playoffs about 20 years ago. John Manuel, Pro Scout, Minnesota Twins, is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. So big picture here. Well, no, let me get to one thing before the bigger picture, and then we'll have to say goodbye. It doesn't hurt Major League Baseball at all to have the likes of Mookie Betts, who is one of the best 5 players in the sport, Shohei Ohtani, one of the best 1 players in the sport, Aaron Judge,
Yes.
Giancarlo Stanton playing at the level he is playing at right now, Juan Soto, maybe one of the 2 best players in the sport, if not one. I mean, they've got the best players in the league. We might not have great high-profile pitching. Rodon is pitching well. Garrett Cole is clearly pitching very well. But we don't have necessarily the I'm not even sure we have high-profile starting pitchers anymore because the sport is sort of moving away from them. But we've got, at least 4 of the best 8 players in the league playing in this series. That doesn't hurt, including the fact that Ohtani is bringing record viewership from Japan.
It really is about as star-studded a World Series as I can really ever remember. I mean, that's the thing about it, is that the lineups, the Yankees lineup is a little more top-heavy. Like if Freddie Freeman's healthy, and I don't know that he will be, but it definitely gives them more time. The fact that we don't start till Friday.
Right.
That helps the Dodgers. I think it helps the Dodgers get their pitching a little bit in order. I mean, their pitchers are talented. Yamamoto is the highest paid pitcher, I think, in the world. Jack Flaherty was a first-round pick, former North Carolina commit. He's a 10th year in pro ball. And Walker Buehler, that guy's good. And I'll tell you, I think he's the key for the Dodgers. Just if I can evaluate a player real quick, I think Walker Buehler is getting better and better. And when they won it all in 2020, their best pitcher was Walker Buehler.
Yeah.
Their second best was Julio Urias, who's now in the Where Are They Now file, deservedly so. But Buehler is also pitching for a contract.
Yep.
So he's coming off his second Tommy John surgery. That guy, I think he's the key. Because I think the biggest area you would give the Dodgers a deficit, I think the Yankees do have better starting pitching, and their bullpen has done very well with some. Tim Hill was a waiver claim. Mark Leiter Jr. was a very small kind of level trade here.
Yeah.
So they've shown some depth. The Dodgers bullpen, I think, is better, but the Yankees overall pitching staff, I would give them a little tiny edge. But and I also will remind you, I believe you and I may have done a game together with Luke Weaver pitching for Team USA back in 2013.
Well, Jared Weaver, definitely. I don't know about Luke Weaver.
We definitely did Jared. Luca was on the 2013 team with Carlos Rodon. I can't remember if
I did not do any games with Rodon. I go back like in another 8 or so years. Luke Weaver was pitching in college in 2013. He looks like he belongs in high school today.
He does. He's the rare Florida State ace. Mike Martin didn't used to do that, but yeah, Luke Weaver was a first-round pick and moved very quickly, and is a classic case just from the evaluator in me. If you're a right-handed pitcher and you have a really good changeup and you throw hard, but breaking balls aren't your thing, from my standpoint, you go to the bullpen. And it took Luke Weaver 10 years as a professional to go to the bullpen, finally realize he's not a starting pitcher.
I'm sorry, John.
He's been outstanding.
You know so much about this game, but there's no way you could talk to me and produce affidavits for an hour. There's no way that Luke Weaver has been a pro for 10 years. He looks like he just got his training wheels taken off his bicycle. All right, now I'm going to ask.
Same draft year as Rodon, 2014.
Gosh, that's unbelievable to me.
It is.
All right. I'm going to ask this question, and I'm going to beg you. I need 60 seconds, no more than 60 seconds.
I'll do my best.
Does baseball need a salary cap?
I work for a team that's being sold, and that cut payroll after winning a division. So I think that a salary cap makes more sense for baseball's finances now than it ever has, as the RSN bubble has kind of burst here. So I think if you could find a way for Major League Baseball teams' owners to agree on revenue and what counts as baseball revenue. Does the battery count as baseball revenue or not in Atlanta? If you could find a way to agree on that revenue, then I would actually be more for a salary cap now and the salary floor that comes along with it than I ever have been in my history as a baseball fan. So maybe because I see it more from the Twins' financial perspective than I used to. But it is the gap between the haves and the have-nots has grown to such an extent that I think a cap and floor system has some merit, and I think the players actually might make more money as long as we agree on what that baseball revenue actually is. They might get a higher percentage of that revenue as long as you include all the true baseball revenue.
John Manuel, Pro Scout, Minnesota Twins, very good. You did it. It was like 65 seconds, but that's close. Good enough for us. All right, John. I will talk to you very soon, man. But who's going to win, Yankees or Dodgers?
If I were a betting man, I'd say L.A.
That was the correct answer.
The more talented roster.
That was the correct answer. Shouts to our friend Alan Matthews. All right, John. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, AG.
Thank you very much. Alan Matthews, mutual friend. Used to actually work with John at Baseball America. Is in like a big wig in scouting with the Dodgers.